The compromise between European nationalist elements in the West will never be achieved until an alliance can be made between Christians, pagans, and agnostic theists, and in particular, the New Age Christians which have become soft and afflicted with theological misinterpretations of biblical scripture, and non-Christians who consider Christ's convictions to be nothing more than Semitic black magic and merely a consequence of the Abrahamic mindset. Having had the experience of being raised in a family that had an existential father, one set of Orthodox grandparents, the other being Anglican, with a mother who read a Reader's Digest publication of the St. James Bible, I had the benefit of a broad take on both secular and Christian viewpoints. On the whole, our family argued the most trivial matters. However, when a threat was perceived outside its fold, it worked expertly and cohesively to deal with it. My grandmother would sing "We Shall Gather by the River" while washing dishes on Sunday mornings. Meanwhile, Granddad, flush with a half pint of moonshine, taught me how to street fight in a garage out back. One morning prior to our walk up the hill to church, he formed his hands into fists, which were the size of milk bottles, and stated simply, "Never get into a fight you don't intend to win. And whatever virtues you've learned, son, you just keep them in your pocket when they won't protect you." He was a decorated veteran of the Second World War, and I worshipped him and everything he uttered. In many respects, he can be likened to that greatest generation of Christian defenders of the faith, who fought and died from the 8th to 16th centuries protecting European soil and folk, or, in its German transliteration, Blut und Boden. These men wore the cross like an amulet, found a raw power in it, and took inspiration or solace in it whenever either was required. They belonged to a Christianity that saw the world with pagan eyes, and spoke the Latin Vulgate with a thick German accent. And when spring came round, and the crops had been planted, these Christians reveled in splashing the blood of Saracens amidst fields of green wheat. Like my family patriarchs, they didn't baptize or tolerate outsiders. They weren't evangelical or holy. They simply understood the cross as a unifying symbol, and Scripture as something akin to a set of rules that existed between family members. I can't recall anyone even mentioning heaven once, either because it was accepted that we would all meet there again someday, or that such notions were simply in God's hands, and that we would each deal with it personally when our time came. This attitude towards the divine was summed up in an old folk art tattoo my Orthodox grandfather had. It depicted Saint Michael in a raiment of full body armor, standing over a basket of woven rye in which the heads of demons had been chucked. It represented his raw spiritual nature and the manner in which he carried it, Christian at heart but pagan in soul. There was no forthcoming apocalypse in this universal view. That was only some self-fulfilling prophecy manifested by unwholesome Christians who had wildly misinterpreted fringe, devious scraps of anti-Christian scripture concocted by paranoid Pharisees. And in regarding these, the Christian patriarchs in our family were steadfast anti-Semites, where even pronouncing the word Jew in either household came with a severe lecture, as it was considered offensive. Old-time European Christianity was not about inclusivity or diversity. These are simply suicidal terms for true Christians with such roots. I grew up in this milieu, where we owned a decentralized, rural, Eurocentric form of Christianity that focused entirely on family, community, and the liberty to control the destinies of each. It was about blood and soil, and the right to defend both with our spirit, and if needs must, the sword.